Discussion for this episode is Israel, Palestine, and the Black community. With the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine, we want to explore where do Black people fit in this issue. Don't miss out on this insightful conversation. Please tune in to our live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X to participate in this meaningful discussion. Black Westchester Magazine's People Before Politics show. It's the news with the Black point of view.
victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. And are not afraid to say it. And are not.
Talk about the A word. For years now, anyone accusing the state of Israel of being guilty of apartheid in its treatment of the Palestinians has immediately been condemned as an anti-Semite, an Israel hater, someone who doesn't understand what apartheid even is. Just this week, Germany's anti-Semitism czar said calling Israel an apartheid state is anti-Semitic. Here in America, the Anti-Defamation League says the apartheid label is inaccurate and offensive. And yet now, with a government in Israel that is demonstrably far-right and
Let's talk about AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It was incorporated in 1963. For 10 years prior to that, it was known as the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs. AIPAC calls itself America's pro-Israel lobby, and according to its website, it has over 3 million members across the country in regional chapters working to, quote, expand and strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship, end quote. You may know AIPAC as being one of the biggest and most recognizable donors to many of the members of Congress in your state. But contributing to campaigns is a relatively new function of the organization. Before 2021, AIPAC did not endorse candidates nor give political contributions. Its focus was on lobbying elected officials, not actually electing officials. But in a dramatic shift in policy, AIPAC began directly funding candidates and spending big on races in 2021. AIPAC Political Action Committee, AIPAC-PAC, filed something called a Statement of Organization with the FEC just in time for the 2022 election cycle, where it spent $50 million, including both direct contributions to candidates and outside spending, like TV advertisements. According to AIPAC, it donated money to 365 candidates from both parties, including every single member of both Democratic and Republican leadership in Congress. 109 Republicans who voted against the certification of the 2020 presidential election in America received campaign contributions from AIPAC. All in all, AIPAC gave money to 342 members of the 118th Congress. The 2022 elections were the most expensive midterms in American history, with a total cost of $8.9 billion spent. Now, last year, AIPAC ranked 15th in total expenditure by a political action committee, according to data collected by Open Secrets. But take a look at the other funders that AIPAC is competing against for that title. Act Blue and Win Red. They are Democratic and Republican Party machines. Save America is Donald Trump's money-raising operation. The Conservative Club for Growth, Emily's List, focuses on electing Democratic women to office. All of the PACs on this list are massively domestic-focused ideological machines. AIPAC is the only organization in the top 20 whose interests are focused entirely on America's relationship to a foreign government. Now, let's take a look at who benefits from AIPAC's largesse. Here are the top 20 recipients in Congress, the House and the Senate, of AIPAC money in the 2022 midterm cycle, according to Open Secrets. They're members of both parties. They come from every corner of the country with varying levels of experience in Congress. The Democrat Glenn Ivey of Maryland tops the list. He beat out fellow Democrat Donna Edwards in Maryland's House primary after AIPAC poured millions into pro-Ivey advertisements and mailers. Edwards was running for a second stint in Congress after serving during the Obama administration, where she voted present, not even a no, on a number of pro-Israel resolutions. So the money poured in against her. Not even an endorsement from Nancy Pelosi could save her. Michigan Democrat Haley Stevens unseated Democratic Representative Andy Levin. Here's what Levin had to say about that.
I'm really Jewish, but AIPAC can't stand the idea that I am the clearest, strongest Jewish voice in Congress, standing for a simple proposition that there's no way to have a secure democratic homeland for the Jewish people unless we achieve the political and human rights of the Palestinian people.
AIPAC spent $4 million against Levin. He lost by 20 points. When Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, was censured by the House in early November over what some lawmakers called her rhetoric around the Israeli-Hamas war, 22 Democrats joined Republicans in that censure vote. 18 of those Democrats received campaign funds from AIPAC in 2022, totaling more than $1.1 million. By the way, for these 6 of them, AIPAC was their top contributor. A growing list of progressive lawmakers who are vocal in their criticism of the government of Israel and its policies and their support for Palestinian self-determination have inspired AIPAC to spend even more. As progressive lawmakers began calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, Slate reported that insiders expect AIPAC's 2024 spending to hit $100 million. In fact, United Democracy Project, which is a pro-Israel super PAC affiliated with AIPAC, is already spending money on attack ads against Democratic Representatives Jamal Bowman of New York and Summer Lee of Pennsylvania. Lee has already got a primary challenger, as do Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar. Pro-Israel donors have already signaled that they are eager to primary Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Congresswoman Lee already overcame AIPAC's financial influence against her once. She tweeted criticisms of Israel's treatment of Palestinians in 2021, but as a candidate, she affirmed Israel's right to exist. But that's not good enough. AIPAC spent nearly $3 million in the primary alone to defeat Lee, and they almost did. She beat Stephen Irwin, who is third on the list of money given to candidates by AIPAC in 2022, by less than 1,000 votes. And if Congresswoman Lee wants to keep her seat in 2024, she's going to have to do it all over again. She joins me in studio.
Increasing numbers of Israelis and American Jews are starting to use the A word. A new open letter signed by over 1,000 high-profile academics and activists from Israel and the United States says there cannot be democracy for Jews in Israel as long as Palestinians live under a regime of apartheid. This morning, a top former Israeli general went on national radio in Israel to say there has been absolute apartheid in the occupied West Bank for the past 57 years, and even compared the situation there with Nazi Germany. And writing in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz this week, South African-born Jewish journalist Benjamin Pogren said that he had spent years arguing with all my might against the accusation that Israel is an apartheid state. However, the accusation is becoming fact, as every day sees government ministers and their allies venting racism and following up with discriminatory actions. The tragedy, however, is that while former Israeli generals and liberal Israeli journalists finally come round to seeing how badly the Palestinians have been mistreated and how that mistreatment meets the definition of apartheid under international law, according to a plethora of leading human rights groups, we have liberal Democrats from the United States, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, turning up in Israel this week with the right-wing lobby group AIPAC to reaffirm our special relationship, to praise Israeli democracy while ignoring the protesters on the streets, and to do fawning photo ops with Benjamin Netanyahu. I suspect in years to come we will say these Democrats were on the wrong side of history.
Democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East, in the exact same way that America is the oldest democracy in the world. I can remember walking down streets with a Palestinian guide, and we would get to certain streets and he would say, I can't walk down this street with you. You can walk, I cannot, because I'm Palestinian. And I thought, I know what that is. As we drove through the occupied territories and I would look out and I would see roads that Palestinians could use, and roads that only Israeli Jews could use. I said, I know what this is. As I saw different colored license plates for different classes of people, I said, I know what this is. As I saw communities that I can only describe as segregated. And what I felt was a tremendous weight. I felt the obvious thing that I think all of us feel, that our tax dollars are effectively subsidizing apartheid, or subsidizing a segregationist order, a Jim Crow regime. But I also felt that as an African American who was reared on the fight against Jim Crow, against white supremacy, against apartheid, I felt tremendous shame. How could I not know? How could I not know that the only democracy in the Middle East as it builds itself is segregated?
Yes. Welcome.
Peace and blessings, everybody.
You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 390, 10 shows away from our 400th episode. We have a very special show today. I am AJ Woodson, my partner Damon K. Jones. We are here to have a discussion. Well, Damon, tell us what we're talking about today.
You know, we're going to have a good brother come on the show, Dr. Pastor Mulrain. He's going to come on the show. But I started the show off with these videos because, number one, when certain people will say that we are attacking or basically printing rhetoric, they don't,
or smear campaigns against candidates,
right? Or smear campaigns. We're only reporting what MSNBC, one of the most liberal channels, are reporting about AIPAC, which has given George Lattimore over 40% of his campaign finances to
over
run
$600,000 in the last quarter.
Right. To run against the first Black congressman of District 16. And if people were watching these reports, they are willing to spend millions of dollars, as they did try to do that, sister, for a foreign government. Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. Israel is a foreign government. It's not an island off of New York. It's a foreign government that's getting billions of our tax dollars to do what? To oppress Palestinians. Now, can't take it from me, Ta-Nehisi Coates. How you pronounce his first name? I mean, I just messed it up.
I can't do it because you just messed it.
Ta-Nehisi Coates. What he just said, he was there in Israel. And he said he knows what this looks like. And as a Black person from America, how did he not know? And the sad thing about it is many Black people do not know the oppression of the Palestinians from the Israeli government. And we have to air it out, and we have to be more conscious. We could not be Black people and fight Jim Crow and segregation and then support the same thing we fought against here in America as Black people and support that to brown people. We should not stand for that. So, I believe Brother Mulrain reached out to AJ and wanted to come on the show about, I guess, an op-ed he had, put in Low HUD, and which it caused a lot of conversation. It confused me a little bit, but, it's good to have conversation. We have to have conversations, as Black men, as Black people, even if we disagree on certain issues. It is good to have productive conversations because
the honest, uncomfortable conversations that we normally don't have.
Right, because we have to get things straight. Because when we support people, and which is very serious when you put your stamp on somebody, your reputation, your credibility, your integrity is also on the line. You know, that's why a lot of people don't co-sign for people to get car loans. Why? Because it's going to mess your credit up. And people don't, and when you worked hard to build your FICO score, you don't want nobody to mess it up. And that's the same when we co-sign on elected officials as community leaders, as people that's in the community. We don't want to mess our people score up, our community score. So I think we need to have these type of conversations at this time, because there are people that don't care about us. That's, as you saw in the videos, that I wanted to post that because I didn't want people just to think we're giving political propaganda. If you're not going to take it from black media, we'll let you hear it from white media. Some of y'all will believe it better. So they're saying the same thing we have been writing about for the last 3 months. So we have to have these conversations. AJ?
That's it. Shout out to Charles Stern, who gave you the enunciation of my man's first name. You see in the comment section. Shout out to D the Diva Wilson and Carlton Beckford Dozier and everybody else who's tuned in. Greatly appreciate y'all. So this started with a couple of things we wrote, a couple of things we said. The APAC and organizations like the District PAC, who I heard from and might want to come on the show and have a discussion with us, and teach. What was the other organization? Teach something.
Mm-hmm.
They were spending a lot of money, and their website specifically said they were trying to register Republicans as Democrats with the mission to vote Jamal Bowman out. So 2,300 Republicans switched over. And just to give you an idea, Mike Lawler, the Republican who won Mondier's former district, he won by 2,400 votes. So 2,300 people can tip the scale of an election regardless of how Democratic voters vote. If Democratic voters feel that Latimer is the best candidate, then they should be able to do that without Republican interference. If Democrats feel that Jamal Bowman is the best candidate, they should be able to vote in the Democratic primary without the influence of thousands of Republican voters disenfranchising black people's votes. Then it went on. APAC wrote an article about a situation where George Latimer basically said Jamal Bowman was taking money from Hamas. And Damon, well, I'll let him speak on it. One of the things that has pissed Mr. Latimer off the most is the nickname that Damon gave him, Genocide George, because he feels that people that are supporting George are supporting genocide. And because of that, a lot of people on both sides have been very vocal. A lot of people have said we've been writing anti-Semitic articles. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing Reverend Edward Mulrain's article in LoHUD. It's in the comment section right there. You can read it for yourself, and he will be on to talk about it. So this is where we are right now. And as the guy said, I'm not sure if it was MSNBC or the other guy in the video, the problem we are getting at now is if anyone is not just 100% pro-Israel, anyone is not just calling out the atrocities that Hamas did on October 7th, which we have officially condemned, and talked about the innocent people that were killed in Israel, anybody who then has the audacity to talk about the innocent people that are killed in Palestine and what the effect of what Israel is doing in Palestine is being labeled pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic. And that's what we're here to talk about.
I'm not worried about them calling me anti-Semitic because black people are not anti. You can't be something that you are.
Right. But my point of bringing that is two things can be true. What happened on October 7th is true. And what is happening in Palestine every day is also true. It is not one or the other. There are battle lines being drawn right now that you have to say these things or you will be labeled these things and people will come after you or they will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to remove you from office. In our chance, there are people who will not advertise with us right now because of the stands we've took, but we're not going to let that stop us from speaking the truth. Unlike a lot of people that are fear for their jobs or fear for the grants that they're getting from the county or whatever, the truth has to be spoken.
And it has to be, and we have to be honest about it.
Absolutely.
You can't sit here and call us anti-Semitic when you're killing Semitic people. Palestinians are Semitic people also. And with 70% of women and children being killed and over 30,000 people killed, the war is over. The fight's over. See, and this is, and this is what I don't understand. If they score, and I'm not making light of death, absolutely not. But let's say this is a basketball game, and the Palestinians score 1,200, and Israel scores 30,000. The game is over. The game is over. The ref is going to say, once the ref's going to look at the score and say 30,000 to 1,200, boop, 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 it's over. They're never going to catch up.
Today, just before the show, the Boston Celtics were beating the Golden State Warriors, and they were over 50. They had an over 50-point lead before halftime. The Golden State Warriors pulled his stars in and basically called the game. They had to play to the end of the game, but he brought his stars in at that point. There was no coming back from that. That just happened. That just went off a half an hour ago.
Now, but Michelle, listen, look, Michelle. When they call me, when they call me, good evening, sis. When they call me anti-Semitic, I just call them anti-black. And see, we're gonna have to draw the lines. But the real discussion is, Israel is a foreign government, and no foreign government should have this type of influence on another government. See, they had the nerve to talk about Trump and Russia. And last episode, we posted a Republican who was voting against $14 billion going over to Israel. While many of our inner cities, our infrastructure is falling apart. And if you say, let's just give them $2 billion and let's lose the rest of $12 billion and fix our infrastructure, they're going to label you anti-Semitic. And the fact of the matter is, those that watched the report that we played on MSNBC from MSNBC, so y'all can't say it's us. They went after a lady that just voted president. That's all she did. And they wanted to take her out. But if you're spending all that money, why don't you just send the money to Israel and let our hardworking tax dollars go to building our communities? That's what needs to happen. Don't send my money. Send your money. Because I'm busy out here feeding hundreds of people every week to give them food. And you're sending money over to oppress another people. See, and this is the problem I have, and this is the problem that we speak out. And you can't, and even George Lattimore, you can't hide from that. You can't use the usual political rhetoric to hide from what's going on, because you're going to be on the wrong side of history.
Just
You
like
already
MSNBC
are.
said.
You already are on the wrong side of history. Just last week, they killed 100 people trying to get food and supplies. But you want to worry about Muslims. You want to put, George, you want to put a post up about Muslims using the democratic process of protest, not voting for Genocide Joe, because he has refused to push for a ceasefire because they're out here killing women and children. You want to put a post up about that and shame them, but you have no shame in having an organization register Republicans in the Democratic Party to help you with your votes. That's where the shame is at. You should be ashamed of that, or you should denounce that instead of denouncing people that are being affected by what's going on in Gaza. Family members being killed over there. And you got a nerve to try to shame them for having a protest vote. You're on the wrong side of history. And the world sees it, but you don't, because you're getting that AIPAC money. This is bigger than Jamal. This is bigger. This is about humanity. Where is your humanity, George? Denounce that. Instead of denouncing the Muslims over there in Michigan, you should support the democratic process. Because you or Joe Biden are not helping the situation. And if you feel that I'm wrong, then speak out against it. Speak for a ceasefire. Speak out for a two-state solution.
Is our guest here yet?
I'm not sure. Yep, he's here. Well, we want to bring Reverend Dr. Mulrain on, man, and we're gonna have a conversation. Greetings, sister. Hope all is well. Thank you. We want to bring him on because we have to, like Tassiani Coates. How do we not know? How do we not know? And if we're spiritual people, we want a resolution to this. We want people to actually humanize the suffering on both sides. Listen, I denounced what happened on October 7th. I denounced any form of terrorism. And yes, I felt that Israel had the right to respond. But come on, the game's over. But it's 1,200 to 30,000. The game is over. And when you start destroying cemeteries, and when you start destroying homes and hospitals, and churches, one of the oldest Christian church in Christianity is in Palestine and it's destroyed. So what you're gonna try to tell me they were Hamas in the basement? All right, let's bring our brother on.
So our brother Reverend Edward Mulrain, wrote an editorial for Lohud. The title of the editorial is "Black New Yorkers Should Stand Steadfast in Their Support of Israel." Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank
Well,
you, thank you. Y'all are good. Let me just say this. Listen, I heard everything you said, and I want to applaud you too. And thank God I'm on the road to the 400th show with you. I wanted to get in there before y'all got to 400, so I'm glad that I did. I said, well, let me get in here one time at least. But y'all are some really blessed and really strong, and I would say bold brothers. You speak up. AJ, we worked on projects. Damon K. Jones, we worked on projects. So
yes,
we're no strangers to each other. So I
that's
don't
right.
come here, to battle y'all. I come here to see
Exactly.
where we agree, really. To tell you the truth.
Exactly.
We're all black men. We all done been through the system in some way or another. We know what it is to be marginalized, oppressed.
That's
We
right.
know what racism does to a people. We know to be hungry in our community. So there's a lot of alignment going on. And so, I'm open to the discussion because I love conversation. I love discussion. And I think we have more in common than
Absolutely.
we have in terms of disagreement.
Absolutely.
So I'll definitely wait for you all to, ask me whatever you need to ask me. But remember, I don't decide the title of the article. That's their choice.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah. They give you they change up the title. When you write for papers, they change up the title
You
accordingly.
know what? I forgot, man. I haven't.
And Damon actually should know that because he comes up with some really great titles.
You know what? You're absolutely right, brother.
Right.
You're absolutely right. They will
Right.
change. They will
Yeah.
change your whole
They're
joy.
a business. They trying to sell papers.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. That's why
so
you
we
should have
get
just sent it to us, brother.
yeah, next time. But yeah, y'all could have reprinted that and everything else.
So to be clear, what is it that you were saying if you weren't saying that black people should stand steadfast in their support of Israel? What was the point
But
you were trying to make in the
let
editorial?
me say this. When I first heard about what Hamas did to Israel, I
Mm-hmm.
thought, and remember, this is not so much about Israel and Palestine. Those are international countries, and God bless them. We align, like when Martin Luther King says, "Where justice somewhere, justice injustice
Right.
Yeah.
one place is injustice every place." So definitely, we align with the Palestinians. But when I first saw this article, heard what Hamas, and I say Hamas specifically because of the acts that it perpetrated against Israel, the killings and the kidnapping. I thought immediately about us as a people. I aligned it immediately with white supremacists going into a black church, killing
Mm-hmm.
9 people. I thought about immediately how in Buffalo, New York, specifically targeting black people. So that alignment was already there when the Hamas went and kidnapped on the territory of Israel and killed and maimed and kidnapped, and to this day have kidnapped. There's an immediate response that connects me with the black community and what has happened to us. And so my article is, yeah, definitely immediately at that point supporting Israel and still continue to support Israel in terms of its history, in terms of aligning with the black community on particular causes, from the civil rights even until George Floyd. So I don't disavow any support for Israel at that immediate point. But when you read the article, you also hear me say, and I think the media try to restrict us sometimes to say either you're with one or the other, and
Right.
that's you could get so media minded to believe that, oh, if I'm for Israel, I can't be for the support of Palestine. No, the whole idea is that that initial act of what happened with Israel from the Hamas. That became the basis of the article. But then my article was really going into how black people are attacked all the time. I say in the
Mm-hmm.
article, the first thing I say, you look there when you read it. I said we have to also address how Israel have oppressed
Mm-hmm.
Palestine over the years. It's right there in the article. That's the first thing I say. And in order to make sure that we don't, I didn't just start calling for the freedom of Palestine. This incident erupted and it allowed us to have discussion about it. But back in the day, and even more recently, there has been calls for the Palestinians to be freed up
Right.
from Israel. As soon as
Absolutely.
this thing started, you got to look at it. Palestinians' water supply was cut off, electricity was supplied. That means they're
Exactly.
not in charge of their own territory. They're not in
Exactly.
charge of their own land. And
Exactly. Exactly.
myself, along with Al Sharpton and others, always call for a two-state solution in order to
Mhm.
give the territory and the props to the Palestinians so that they can have their own land. And of course, this has to be monitored to make sure that everybody is in agreement with certain areas. But at the same time, nobody should be controlled by somebody else in terms of their land and in terms of their possessions. So basically, what you're saying, I'm trying to say in that article is that yes, the immediate response
Mhm.
aligned Israel and their suffering and their bombardment of what happened from the Hamas with the African American community and how we're constantly being bombarded. We listen. You could fix the economy. You could fix all these things if you want to. But if there are white supremacists out there, white nationalists, all of them, replacement theory, and they believing in it, they could come into our churches and shoot us at any moment. I don't care if you're in the South or if you're not. That what took place was in Buffalo, New York. I'm
Mhm.
after the white supremacists. I'm after those who are trying to kill black people. And my article is basically about how nothing has been done. You could go and send money to Israel. And Damon, I'm with you with this one because, like you
Mhm.
said, that money could be used in order to fund really the government in order to take down white supremacists right
That's
here
right.
in our country that's killing
Exactly.
black people every day. Some of them we don't even talk about. We don't even know
Right.
about. But if I
That's
have
right.
to go to church and I have to tell my security team, y'all be ready because you never know who could walk up in here. You never know
That's
who could
right.
shoot our people up. We got something to really worry about. We have to be
That's
Down,
right.
concerned.
down south, you got Pastor Strap now. Like
I know.
when in my church, my pastor has
know them.
security. Like if you try to come up in my church down there, you wasn't walking out. You tried
I
to come
know
up in
them.
there.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
had several
Yeah.
off duty
You
cops
can't just
and
walk
other
to
people
some
that were
people.
licensed to carry. Yeah,
That's right.
I
That's
wanted
right.
to make your point. So while you said that the policies and principles of self defense and elimination against a threat against their land and existence. You support that. Your next line says it's undeniable that Palestine people have faced humanitarian and oppression at the hands of Israel, and that also must be addressed. And
That's
that
right.
is a quote. That is a quote from. So you're saying Israel, like what you just said, Israel has a right. I mean, when they got attacked, you got a right to defend your land
Absolutely. You have a right to
and
defend
defend
yourself.
in self
Every country,
defense.
right. And Damon said the same thing. Every country has a right to defend themselves. When you see stuff like that, and remember, this is where I have to give some credibility to Israel. They're living under historical threat and trauma. They're thinking if we go back to when people were killing us and we were in concentration camps and all of that stuff, that's their biggest fear. When I see black people getting killed in the church and I see black people getting killed in a supermarket, I'm under a trauma right now. I'm saying, what happens if one of these presidents get back in office and they don't really do anything about this and the policies don't change? Homeland Security has already stated that the biggest threat to America right now is white supremacy, and they're doing hardly anything about it. That money that they're sending so much over to other places, they could definitely use it in order to protect and build up the Homeland Security so that black people and really all people can be protected. So yeah, I want to make sure that we're protected because we're all under trauma when certain things happen based upon a past that has already have us up over in arms every time we see a black child getting killed. Israel, I'm sure, the same thing for them. Whenever they hear of something happening in their country, they're thinking, "Oh no, we're going back to being attacked. We're going back to people trying to kill us and kill our way of thinking and eliminate our existence." That's what I'm thinking when I'm a black person in America. But it had nothing to do with me saying that there needs to be a ceasefire. It had nothing to do with me saying that 90% or the majority of people out of 30,000 have been women and children that have been killed. We need to stop this. It's overboard now. And even Jewish people, along with Americans, are thinking that. And Kamala Harris today came out and said, we need a ceasefire. America started dropping food.
Let me say something, Damon, real
Yeah.
quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The example you gave is great, but if Black people who have been constantly traumatized every time with the killing of Black people by police, the burning up churches, the things that happen in church, if we were trying to defend ourselves the same way, we would be labeled terrorists, and a terrorist threat, and they would try to stamp us out.
Absolutely.
It would be some revolutionary terrorist threat. And
That's right.
the same thing, we have the same trauma.
Right.
We've been killed, and all these things happen to us, and they don't want us to defend ourselves.
That was the basis of the article. That's basically what I'm saying. They're not funding the agencies that can protect us from these violent threats, racist threats against us. And that was the whole purpose of the article. I wrote in here that, and I'll show you have it in front of you. But the House last year passed the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, HR 350. After the incident in Buffalo, New York, the bill would establish domestic terrorism offices within the Justice and Homeland Security Departments and the FBI. It calls for leaders of the FBI, DOJ, and DHS to submit a joint report twice a year with a particular focus on the threat posed by white supremacists and neo-Nazis. The bill would also require training and resources for state and local governments to detect and deter acts of domestic terrorism against Black people. But nobody has done that.
That bill hasn't passed, right? That bill
it passed in the House with no Republican support. It's held up in the Senate because they won't bring it forward.
Right. But I think, Nat Turner was a terrorist. He
was labeled a terrorist. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X is on my shirt.
Malcolm X was a terrorist to the American government. I can't. You can't say never again when you become the thing that you say never again to. Netanyahu is no better than Hitler. And I'm going to say it again. Netanyahu is no better than Hitler. So, as faith people that believe in God, believe in Jesus Christ, Jesus was a Palestinian.
Palestinian Jew. Yeah.
We should not make no excuses for anyone, to purposely destroy, where the Son of God was born. They have no respect, and what would they call? Would they call the Bible anti-Semitic? Because it was the rabbis that went and ratted Jesus out. That's in the book, right? So we can't sit here. If we have trauma, if I have trauma and I'm healing, I'm supposed to recognize other people's trauma.
That's right.
For 50 years, you could go all the way back. Martin Luther King spoke about the Palestinian and Israel conflict.
This has been since the Bible days.
Back in the day.
Right.
It's been way back.
It's been back then. I'm just speaking on the historical reference of we as Black people in America seeing the conflict over in Israel and Palestine. The majority of our leaders, whether it's from the Black Power movement or the Civil Rights movement, recognize the need for a two-state solution, right? And also condemned them occupying Palestinian land. Now they have allowed to use certain words to deter people from speaking about it. And as the video on MSNBC So when I talk about it, people just can't say we're throwing rhetoric when MSNBC, when they say it, that they decided to what? Buy politicians. The things that black folks are supposed to do, but we never do. Right? They buy their politicians. They spend millions of dollars. George Lattimore got over $600,000 to run against our first black man in Congress because he spoke out for the Palestinians. He spoke out for a two-state solution.
Well, $600,000 from a pro-Israel organization. They are all pro-Israel. If you say anything,
sending money to Israel, it ain't about nothing else, right? And I don't. Our last show, we showed where they said community before party. See, if a black man said community before party, they would say, "Hey, brother Mulrain, you can't say that."
That's what they told the Black Panthers they couldn't say that. That's what the Black Panthers were talking about.
We're all Democrats, brother Mulrain. You can't say that. Don't say that. But nobody's telling them not to say it. They got it big on their website, community for party. So their main purpose is putting George Lattimore in so more money can to go to a foreign country. No, that's not the way it should be. That's not the way it should be. We should not allow anything like that. Now, and I'm transparent. If George wasn't down with AIPAC, hey man, cool. But you're down with a group of people that don't have our interests. You're down with a group of people that are not denouncing what's going on. They're supporting what's going on. And not just Muslims are being killed, Christians are being killed. We have a duty, if we want to call ourselves Christians, to speak truth to power and tell them that enough is enough. When people are dying at the numbers are they dying at? And we should say community before party. We should say you're not taking that black man out of office that brought $1 billion to the district. That's what we should be saying, but we're not. Unfortunately, we're not saying that, right? We want to be on the winning side. Right now with Palestine, we got to be on God's side, brother. We got to be on God's side. We don't have being on the winning side is not going to work anymore in 2024. You're going to be on the right side, which is God's side, or you're going to be on the devil's side.
When
I think.
Let me say one thing real quick.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Damon, when you get a chance, put up Charles Stern's comment and Carlton's comment. But the African American, the AME's church called for a ceasefire, and what they said is, we remain in solidarity with Jesus Christ of Nazareth, a Palestinian Jew. It was bold for the entire denomination to call out.
That's bold.
A lot of black churches have been quiet, and they called for a halt to U.S. funding to Israel amid genocide. I thought that was a bold position for one of the oldest black denominations to take.
Listen, when you have 1.9 million Palestinians displaced,
exactly
30% of homes destroyed, you have half of Palestinians at risk of starvation. Who would not have a heart for that? Who would say, "Oh, that ain't nothing. Let's dismiss that"? Israel, aside from the right-wing government of Netanyahu, but Israel people, Jews in America, young people especially, could see that this is extreme. And believe it or not, a lot of people are supporting and coming to the aid the best way they can. And initially, people will begin, and even this administration, you can see the Biden administration and others beginning to say, listen, we understand that you have a right to self-defense, which they do. But at the same time, you have to be conscious and cognizant not only of the lives that are being lost, but are you in violation of international law?
That's right.
There's a lot going on here that needs to be studied, that need to be looked at, because so many people are dying. And after a
Mhm.
while, even Joe Biden has said this, and Netanyahu and his tactics begin to lose support, not only from America, but worldwide. When you are giving your aid to somebody, and we're giving Israel a considerable amount of aid, which we always
Billions.
have. Yeah,
Billions.
and we always have. But I think with money comes calling some shots. You could determine things when you're sending money. You need to drop aid and allow Palestinians to get food and open up roads so that they could get through. You need to stop
Or we're
dropping
not going to give you
bombs
no
in
more
certain
money.
areas. Yeah.
Or we're not going to give you no more money. That's what
Bernie
that's what's
Sanders
done
said that.
everywhere
Bernie
else.
Sanders
If
said
we
that.
send you this money,
Mhm.
you can't do these things. And if
Exactly.
you do these things, we're not sending you no more money.
Exactly. There's always strings attached to money. America doesn't just send money. Um, Israel has been a big ally of America for a long time. That's their connection in the Middle East over there. So I wouldn't say that we should lose our connection. But if you're going to send all this money and you see this big war, you do attach some strings to it, and some demands to it, to show that, listen, there's certain things that will not be tolerated with our money
And
and our bombs.
right. Shanice Coleman said, at the end of the day, charity begins at home. What about the homeless and people in the USA? And there was a lyric from Tupac said, they got money for war but can't feed the poor.
Mm,
And I think that's very
that's
powerful.
appropriate.
What Damon was talking about,
Yeah.
we have a lot of people outside of America look at America as hypocrites because of their treatment of black people for generations,
That's
and
the
they
art.
go over and tell everybody else what they shouldn't be able to do, and attack places for doing things that
Right.
they hear are doing themselves.
Exactly.
And if you
Exactly.
call that out, you're silenced one way
Right.
or another.
Well, we've been calling it out since before Martin Luther King, and we continue to call it out today. And the contradiction is evident to anybody who has eyes to see. I mean, even if you rate child, you can see what the atrocities that the black people face here in America. And my job is to bring the conversation back to us. I mean, I definitely understand what's happening in Palestine, foreign country, what's happening in Israel, and we can't. I don't ever think that America, because it's America, has to restrict its funding and its priorities. I think that America, being America, has to do stuff domestically as well as internationally, because you have to keep alliances, you got to keep your power all over the world, and we've always done that. It wasn't like it was one or the other. We've done domestic and we've done international. But when international takes over domestic concerns, then we have a problem. When we can't address stuff within our own community, because we don't have community block grants and we don't have basic education for our own children, and you got billions of dollars to send other places, then we have a problem with each other. But it's never been, okay, we can do for the U.S. but not do for other countries. That's our job. What's going on in Somalia and places right now in African territories. Look at all the killings that's going on there. That's us. And we need to address that. But
you talked about the bill that got passed in the House. Carlton said at 6:41, about 10 minutes ago, but bills have been passed for the Jews and Asians, but not for black people. Where's the anti-hate crime bill against black people?
That's what I said in the article.
Right, and you have to see the hypocrisy there.
From the Republicans, especially, you see the Republicans jumping on board to say, let's pass this. And of course, Democrats are in there too. But when it comes time for passing stuff for us, you do have all the Democrats, and we're in the U.S., we do have all the Democrats saying we're going to pass H.R. 350, every last one of them. And in the Senate, every last one of them. But they won't bring it to the floor in the Senate. So we have a problem here when you could, all the Republicans, all the Democrats saying
it's not all Democrats either. There were times when the Democrats had the Senate and the House, and we had a Democratic president, and we didn't get this bill through then, because there's some white Democrats that don't want this bill too.
That's
So
right.
let's not get the Democrats off the hook.
That's
There are
true.
white
That's true.
Democrats that don't want this, and
Right.
some Uncle Tom black Democrats who ain't gonna fight
Right.
for it and speak up for it.
Right. But and that I'll support you on that. Section 5 pre-clearance 2013 that was supposed to clear any election district and had to go through the courts before they can change districts, they can change polling places. That got eliminated under Obama. I mean, they eliminated Section 5 of the Pre-Clearance Act. Before that, you would have to check the lines. I fought, you're talking about Bowman. I fought for that district for 30 years to get a black person in there. 30 years. I was head of the NAACP in the Bronx. We tried to get, you know,
he ran for state
we
senator.
ran Seabrook, we ran all kinds of people. I went to the state to change the lines 5 times. They would never give it. It was always in our favor, but the money, the support for a black candidate was never there. But thank God Bowman came along years later and was able to win the district. And like you said, we had the population, but we never had the black candidate in this position. Now we have both of those.
And look what they did, brother. Once he won, once he beat Engel, the next election, they took away some of the Bronx from him.
Yeah.
Co-op.
Right.
Black Democratic voters. Yeah.
Then they start pulling the Bronx away from them.
Yeah.
And then they start giving them more of Westchester where the white folks were at, right?
I think they just put the Co-op City back in. I think they just
but they took Wakefield out. They said
exactly.
We'll give you Co-op, but we'll take
Carl Hasty in them area. They took that out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Co-op City.
Right. Exactly. So they're still playing games. If Nita Lowey and what was his name that had the 16th?
Engel.
Engel.
Mm-hmm.
Had that district for what? 30 years?
31 years.
30 years. Yeah.
At least 30 years, right? They ain't never touch it.
Mm-hmm.
But once Mondier Jones, once we had 2 black men in 16 and 17, all of a sudden we gotta start playing 5-card Molly with the district.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the games that this is the games that they're playing with us. But we don't pay attention because we put party before community, while the others put community before party. See, and I'm going to keep saying that because that's what they have on their website. So if they can say it, we can say it. And we should start thinking that. And I had a conversation with Wagstaff. And I know everybody's saying, yo, it's about time we have an opportunity to get the first black district attorney ever in Westchester County. We have an opportunity. But as I told them, those 2,300 people that come from other parties that these organizations went out to switch parties to defeat the first black congressman, do you actually think they're going to vote for you, brother? Huh? Now you're 2,300 in the hole. Right? This is what they're doing to us. But we worried about being appointed. I'm speaking it. We worried about getting a job. Right? We're worried about being on the willing team. And we're selling our soul to the devil.
And getting funded.
And getting funded. See, and this is the problem with black politics. You give a few. And I know somebody might say, hey, brother, but you had a county job. Yes, I did. But I took a test. I went in academy. I took 3 tests. I took an agility test and I took a state exam. Ain't nobody give me nothing. So I could say I wasn't appointed to anything. And after this, they'll probably never appoint me to anything. But it's okay, bro. It's okay. It's okay. Right? So but we have to look at that, brother, man. Like, we're black men. We black men. What do we tell our children that we worked to take out the first black congressman? What do we tell our children? Right? Because we were so excited for Obama, because Obama did so much more for us, whether we agreed with his policies, whether we disagreed with how he handled it, it was for our children to see that we could hold the highest office in the land. But we don't. Why not with Jamal? Why not with Mondir? But now the sister's running now to be the first black woman.
Marianne Carr,
to be the first black woman elected in District 17. Why not her? Why do we always put them before us? And we wonder why our children don't respect us. Huh? We wonder why our children don't listen to us. Because we don't respect ourselves. When we play these type of games for little crumbs from the master's table, instead of saying we could put our people in these offices.
Right. I think that people are becoming, especially with these various issues, regardless of what side one may be on, in terms of conservative, in terms of Trump, in terms of liberal, in terms of Biden. I think all of these issues arising allows more people to become more politically conscious, and they could either agree to get involved in the political process or stay out of the political process or vote uncommitted, like, the other day.
Right.
But I think that with all of this and, our discussions and those who want to respond because they may disagree with you, it shows that at least people are becoming more politically aware, more outwardly vocal, and they want to do something. Especially like you said, the Palestinian situation is bringing so many young people out that Biden got to be careful. This is sometimes issues are necessary like these in order to wake up the conscience of those who are in higher office. And Biden is now, he's changing his tune. Not that he's not supporting the Israel, but he's also saying, listen, that we could support Israel. They've been our closest allies. We've worked with them for a long time. But does that mean that we allow 30,000 people to die during my administration? You put yourself at risk of not getting reelected. So I think that when we all of this, it does. All of this is erupting, and even in our, politics is mostly local. Even in our community, in our district, we have to look at, with this type of setup, them changing the districts around, them trying to cut us out of the process. It helps people to get more involved because sometimes you need an issue to get people involved. If everything was, cream and everything was going smoothly and we didn't hear about any controversy, sometimes people just lay it out. They just lay it out and say, I ain't going to do anything. But if we we hype this thing up and say, listen, we need to do something about this. We have a black man here. We have somebody else running against him. They took out areas of the Bronx, and this is going to be a tight race. So we need to make sure that people get out there and vote. And not only that, the candidate has to get out there and make sure.
Exactly.
People don't vote for you. Let me tell you this. People don't vote for you just because you're black now. You know what I'm saying? They don't vote for you just because you're black. And you're basically saying it. We kill ourselves sometimes because sometimes we put people in there that everybody who's our kin ain't our kind.
Exactly.
So you got to be real careful. Like saying that we, just like AJ just said to me, those Democrats, you got to be careful. Absolutely. I ain't coming to this game to say I'm here to support the Democrats, and totally against Republicans. I'm saying if there's some black people you got to be careful of, white folks you got to be careful of, everybody you got to be careful of.
No, absolutely.
The saddest thing is, in every movement we had, they used someone who looked like us to infiltrate and destroy the movement. They always use someone who looked like us, who could fit in.
That's right.
To every movement. Yo, there's a couple of things I wanted to say. I didn't want to interrupt y'all when y'all were talking. You know, again, we see all these other groups of people fighting for their rights and demanding their rights. And until we do the same, we're never going to get those. We're in a time where they're now the things that were fought for 50 and 60 years ago in the civil rights movement, they're trying to take all those things away right now. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So we have to be paying attention that these same people, and for these things to go through, Democrats and Republicans are voting for them. You understand what I'm saying? Not all Democrats, but there are some Democrats voting for this stuff too. You know what I'm saying? You
But
know,
AJ, can I say this real quick while you're on that note? We're fighting the big issue now is abortion. They took that away. The Supreme Court took that away. People are fighting for it. But then they take away affirmative action also.
right?
Why
Well,
such silence
I told people,
over DEI and all of the other
I
issues? Why
told
such
people,
silence?
I told people when they were trying, when we went down for the March on Washington, I covered it for voters' rights. And I made a point that if you don't fight for voters' rights, none of those other things you fighting for, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's a black thing," and I said, "Don't be careful because they're coming after y'all women's rights too, and they coming after LGBT, they're coming after all those rights." You know what I'm saying? Because they fear the browning of America when it was just run by white men. You know, they taking away women's rights, they taking away everybody's rights, but nobody saw that, and then it's like, you know, that old saying that there's one group got attacked and I did nothing, and the other group got attacked and I did nothing, and the other group got attacked and I did nothing. And then when they came to attack me, there was nobody to defend me because I ain't do nothing for none of them. That's what we're looking at. Nobody wanted to fight for these things, and then they went after the next group. Then they went after the next group. Then they went after the next group. Some stuff they wasn't able to do, but they still work. And Republicans are relentless. They have been fighting for 50 plus years to get this Roe versus Wade thing overturned since it got into us. And they were every year just adding a little bit more. And they had a
School board on up.
Right, they had a long-term goal on this.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying? We don't see long-term goals like that. And they fought and fought for 50-something years until they got it done. Until they put somebody in president that was going to co-sign everything they wanted, and they got it done. And we don't see that. We're playing. We're not even playing checkers. They're playing chess. I don't know what we're playing. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
no, I agree.
And we have to. And I'm glad that you're on, because another topic we talk about, and I talked about this a little bit with Reverend Frank Coleman last week when I had presidents of the NAACP. The black church role in all of this. The black church used to be that place that galvanized the movement, the struggle, the fight. You know what I'm saying? When they had the bus boycott on Sunday in black churches, they told everyone not to ride the bus, and no one got on a bus. There was no social media, there was no emails. That was black pastors in churches all across the area saying, "Do not get on the bus tomorrow." We need to get back to our black churches taking more of an active. These things are going on. Not saying all black pastors, not saying all black churches, but too many of them are silent. And, you know, some of them are getting funding from the county, or someone getting, you know what I'm saying, favors from this one, and they won't speak up. And that's hurting us. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like you just said, it took a lot of guts for the AME church in order to denounce what's going on from Israel to Palestine. But, you know, also I think culture changes, and culture changes could impact and affect how we organize. And Martin Luther King, unless it's something like, you know, a black guy or black man getting killed and shot, there may be a whole lot of social media getting out there and people getting on into the streets. But the black church now, especially after pandemic, not saying that pastors don't speak out, it's whether or not the culture is still there after the pastor speaks out to get people to polls like they used to get people. Of course, the church listens, but our organization status and influence, like it was yesterday, not necessarily always like it is today. We can speak about it, but if the culture has changed in order for it to more effectively be seen on social media, I think that's what we have to keep up on. Not only in terms of the church building, but people. First of all, a lot of churches have losing a lot of people to social media. Majority of people now, when you speak to them, I have to speak more to the screen and to the video than to the audience that's there. But this is not to say that we don't have the same or can't do the same thing that we did yesterday. But when culture changes, I think tactics ought to also change. The cultural context and leadership determines how effective you will be at that moment. So I think that yes, the church has to get more involved, especially in the communal role, especially in talking out and speaking out against injustices. Like definitely we do, but it also has to be other means by which we communicate with more than just our church, with the masses of people, and also align more together so that we can be more effective.
Absolutely, but the whole that pastors got to speak to screens now, that didn't stop the pulpit pimping for profits. They was on screen too. They was big mega churches. Most people that couldn't go to them churches, they were watching it on TV or on the internet or whatever, and giving up their money. You know what I'm saying? If that can be used for that, that can be used for galvanizing our community and other ways too, with social media and all that. And you have to have young people in your ministerial staff that and your audio your video your media your video media or whatever, who can navigate those things for you so your word is getting out in those medias to the people.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree.
Dear Brenda gave me the quote. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't Jews. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And that's what we got. That's what we're seeing. Oh, when it was the attack on voters' rights, they were like, "Oh, that's just a black issue."
Right.
Then all of a sudden, it wasn't just a black issue because they went after Roe versus Wade, and they was like, "Oh." Then some people was like, "That's just a woman's issue." Then they went after DEI and all these other things, and then basically, whatever group you in, you left. Nobody's left to speak for you because you didn't speak up for them.
You didn't take up for anybody else, and that's absolutely true. We got to start getting not only reactive but proactive. We got to start the movement. We got to get back out there and do what we need to do in order to galvanize the people. We're a little bit removed from the pandemic now, so it's easier for us to coalesce and come together. I think it's just time for us to start talking to each other again about new ways of how to organize so that we can be effective to the younger and to those who have already been in the movement. But when I say culture change, I think like brother told me the other day in Atlanta, and you got brothers down there that vote Republican because they feel like it's in their best interest. I have no problem with that. But they said, listen, voting rights is not my thing. He's about 40, 45, 50 years old. He said, voting rights is not my thing. I'm into economics. And I believe that Republicans help out in economics better than the Democrats. And I said, is that so? I said, that might be true in terms of how you operate down here. And you may have some credibility to what you're saying. But I said, if it weren't for the voting rights, do you think you would have any other rights, whether it be economic?
Exactly what I was saying.
King, after he had the voting rights and the civil rights and all of that was passed, 67, 68, all of that was passed. Then he went into economics.
The poor people's campaign.
He wouldn't have been free. Yeah, the poor people's campaign. He would not have been free enough to do that if he didn't open up the areas of civil rights where we could get into those jobs, where we could get contracts. And so I think that when I say the culture change, I think people
anybody from Georgia should never say that, because I was down there visiting my father when Stacey Kemp was in office, and I personally know the tens of thousands of people that they took off the voting poll, the voting roll, people who voted in every election. I have actual relatives and friends who had voted in every election that when they came to vote that year, their name wasn't on the roll no more. It wasn't because they didn't vote. They was voting every year. They removed. So
They
there's
removed
a
it,
whole
right?
lot of stuff going on in Georgia
Exactly.
that Georgia should be, anybody from Georgia should be caring about voters' rights.
Right.
There was a question that I hadn't asked, and the person brought back up, and it said, as a black man who wrote this article, does the title put on the article bother you? Do you think that some black people who may have read this article coming from a black man was left thinking that they should support Israel?
Well, my article, this is the paper version. It said black people targets of hate and violence must support Israel. I don't know, and they changed it like 2 or 3 times in terms of titles. So I don't know what's the title on that one. But I'm sorry. The question is whether or not black people.
Do you think that black people that read your article with that title that they had, coming from a black man, were left to feel they should be supporting Israel?
Well, nobody
And
ever
this
said we
Israel,
shouldn't support. I never said we shouldn't support Israel. Like I said, Hamas attacked Israel, and I said everybody has a right to self-defense. My immediate understanding when Israel was attacked related then back to black people. So yeah, I am supporting Israel in terms of their response immediately or initially. But when you go over the top, then we have to say enough is enough. So I'm not saying I don't support Israel. I do support Israel. I would support them. I would support them and their state and what they have, but I also support a ceasefire, aid to Gaza. The displacement must end. People must clear the way. A 2-state solution must be established, and Palestinian people should have their own land. I never take the perspective that I got to be on one side or the other.
I think the last part she asked,
and at the same time support the Palestinians because I see the atrocities and all the horrendous stuff that's happening there. People's lives, people are being killed.
Absolutely,
they're dying. 30,000 people. Who wouldn't have a heart for that? Like they said, I would be unchristian if I looked out there as a pastor and said I don't have tears dropping because I see children without their mother. And I see bombs coming down on young people at 5 years old. What kind of humanity or human would I be, regardless of if I supported Israel? Even Israel has to look at this and say, this is crazy. And somebody...
Well, but that's the problem, brother. They're not looking at it and saying it's crazy, right?
No, I would say the people are different from Netanyahu because Israel, some of them want him removed right now. This is
he got the political system locked down where they can't get him out.
He does, but some of them are marching against him and saying that he should be removed because of the way he's not handling or mishandling those who are kidnapped. So a lot of them are coming against him too.
Yeah, right. But I think we also have a problem in America.
The title was "Black New Yorkers Should Stand Steadfast in Their Support for Israel." That's what the LoHUD, the USA Today wrote, and she was asking, does that title bother you?
Yeah, I mean, it bothers me to an extent, but it is supportive and appropriate in terms of what it's saying within the title. And she's saying, does it bother me that people might think that I support Israel? I'm saying, no, it doesn't bother me because I do support Israel. And it just like I support Palestine and what's in a ceasefire and everything that's going on there. But like I said, I'm more concerned in this article, 1-2 paragraphs about Israel and Hamas. The rest of the article, they wanted 800 words, 200 devoted to Palestine and Israel. The other 500-600 devoted to Black people in America and how we're being mistreated, how solutions are not passed to keep us safe here in this country, how Republicans are not passing bills that would protect us, how Homeland Security said that the biggest threat to America is white supremacy and how that white supremacy is attacking us. And the article talks about how Brazil has made a way to lock up white supremacists and Nazis and how America needs to take lessons from them. That's the majority of the article.
Well, how do you see? This is my thing. how do you expect white supremacists to arrest white supremacists? America was built on white supremacy. And they haven't changed, right?
Well,
That,
you're right.
you know, that's like saying you want a cop to investigate another cop for police brutality, right? It's not going to work out in favor of the victim. We know that. America is just as white supremacist as the white supremacists in Israel, right? They work the same, right? This bill is not going to pass because there are going to be Democrats that don't want it to pass, just like the Republicans that don't want it to pass. The point, brother, I'm saying is, we as black people, we have to get to the point and take our $2 trillion that we spend with white folks and start buying our goddamn politicians like they're doing with George. They're showing us right now what we have to do. They're showing us. We have to pool our resources.
The problem is we always said it, but we need the money. You just said it. Right, exactly. We have the money, but will we pool it together? And I was talking to somebody else about this. You right on point. We were talking, me and a couple of preachers. We have the money. It's just whether or not we're organized and pull the money together for our best interest. And sometimes, although we know what we should do, we don't do it like we should do it.
No, we need to come together, roll up on some of these rappers and entertainers, right? That got $300,000, $400,000 chains, and say, no, you need to put it in the kitty so we can start buying our politicians. And if we can't buy them, we rent them. We want to do like they do, right? We want to do like they do.
You know what's funny? Minister Farrakhan talked about that. And he met with several black leaders. And every one of those leaders had a problem. Michael Jackson was one of those leaders. He started having legal problems after that. Bill Cosby was one of them leaders. He started having problems after that. And all these people that had all these big scandals, those are all people that Farrakhan had met with, that they need to take some of that money and put it back into the thing. Arsenio Hall gave him an hour, and it was the last hour of the Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah, that was it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they shut it down. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was talking about just that. He was going to be reaching out to these wealthy entertainers who have all this money, about pulling some of that money together so we can do some more stuff like that, because we support politicians with words and not our wallets. And all these black politicians that are good for our community and could go, they can't run because they don't have the money. And then to get the money, you got to take money from developers who want to get rid of affordable housing. They want to, you got to take money from all these other organizations. And every election costs more and more and more, to the point where George Latimer is getting $600,000 in one quarter from AIPAC. You know what I'm saying?
And he's gonna get, and now that, and I guarantee you, brother, and now that Co-op City's in play, he's gonna get more money. So who does he work for? Does he work for them, or does he work for them black people he walk around with Mount Vernon saying he's from here? No, I'm just being honest. See, we have to have honest conversations, because we're losing the battle, whether we want to believe it or not. I got a nice house, right? I'm retired. I got a good pension check. Got some money saved up. Got a couple of businesses. But on the whole, we're losing the race. Right? As Dr. Claude Anderson said, when you talk about race, it is a race. And it's who's working as a team and who's not. Right now, black people in Westchester County, we're not working as a team. Look at all the little pockets of black communities throughout Westchester County and how they look. Look at them. Look at the lack. They talk about black businesses. How many black businesses are surviving? How many black businesses are surviving in Westchester? Right? You got to claw and fight each other to either work for City Hall or work for Westchester County.
When we first came out, the black Democrats at the top told Democrats not to come on our show.
Exactly.
They told the black Democrat not to come on our show. It's not going to be a good look for them.
Wow.
Exactly. And
Yes.
Republicans.
And see, this is where the divide comes in. When we have so many resources and we allow people to divide us, and we don't come together and have an honest conversation, agree to disagree, but at least we're in conversation with one another.
Right. Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, remember back in the days they used to have the black conferences.
Yes.
In St. Louis, I think it was. The St. Louis, everybody would come together, and a lot of them would disagree with each other.
Osiris. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They would disagree with each other, but they came and they left out of there pledging to do more for their black community. Even if they couldn't do it collectively, it was an individual thing or a communal thing, where at least they came out of there saying, we have certain things that we're going to do for our community. And that lasted a long time. But it's hard, and I think it's harder these days. We do have the right rhetoric, we do have the right conversation, we do have I think most black people have great intentions in terms of coming together and doing something about the community. I do believe in whatever pocket they're in, whether you be an elected official, black, in terms of a pastor, or I think most people have good intention for the community. However, if we could bring those good intentions together, I think we would be more powerful. The problem is, like you said, people tell you to stay away from Damon, stay away from AJ, and so now that's a loss of a communal power. And then they may say, stay away from this pastor,
Absolutely.
stay away from that. Loss of communal power. And so now we have division.
Absolutely.
And we fighting against each other rather than fighting against the real enemy of our community. And that becomes a problem.
I want to address two things. One, Osiris made two comments. Two, he was the head of the Mount Vernon Film Festival. It only happened that 1 year. And as Damon and I were walking up, the top politician in Mount Vernon was like, "Oh, here come them terrorists." And they asked Damon to speak. And the person kept saying, "Oh, I'm not standing next to this terrorist. You got to move me over."
It was Ernie.
It was Ernie. Well, it was Ernie. Yes, it was Ernie. Secondly, the other thing Osiris says, I have to slightly disagree. He said entertainers have never been on the front line. Civil rights was never won with the entertainers. There were people like Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte.
There were people like James Brown. There were several people. And they put their money. They either had big concerts to raise the money for them to do the things they were doing, or sometimes they were putting some of their own money and their support behind it, even if you didn't see it on them. But Harry Belafonte was like
Harry Belafonte.
He walked with Malcolm.
Well, not only that he walked with Malcolm, Harry Belafonte was paying most of Martin Luther King's bills.
That's right, SCLC.
Exactly. Harry Belafonte,
he supported that big time.
There's a difference
Jackson
than the artists from today. In fact, the artists from yesterday, they through concerts, they financed the civil rights movement back then. James Brown, all of them.
Nina Simone was another one. Nina Simone.
These Negroes today? No.
But that's what I was talking about earlier. It's a cultural difference now. I mean, I don't think the young ones or even the older ones coming up today have an alliance with the cause. They have an alliance with entertainment and money.
You know what the problem is? Seriously, two things. So I'm 58. All my life, I just turned 58 February 5th. All my life, I have voters' rights. All my life, I have voters' rights.
I had to fight.
Right, no, but all my life I had voters' rights. I had all these things. These things were passed that our parents had to fight for. We stopped fighting. We were sitting on the laurels of what they did, and we didn't continue fighting for things that was going on. So these young people don't know what it's like to be without these things that our parents had to fight for. You understand what I'm saying? Because all the things that they take in liberty for, like I was an artist back in the days. Because of artists like me and because of things we did, these young artists can make millions and millions and millions of dollars right now.
Yes.
And they don't respect that the people that actually put in the work before them, because they never had to put in the work. It was already in place for them. You know what I'm saying?
You said the same thing I preached about the other day. Absolutely. You said the same thing I preached about it. Sharpton just said this. He said that the young people today, and this is what we fought for, to tell you the truth. We fought so that they could have it better than us, but we didn't fight so that they would lose consciousness and conviction about the cause. But
But is that
somehow,
our fault or their fault? Because
I
it
think
was
I think it's
instilled.
both.
It
I
was
think it's
instilled
both.
in us. It was instilled in us by our parents. Did we
Right.
instill that
But
into them?
I think like the prodigal son went out there and saw all those glitz and glamour. You could tell somebody something at home and embed it into their soul. But then when they step out that door, they have so much more opportunities and influences, and they're impressionable. So what you
But the
tell them,
prodigal son came back home, though.
eventually, and let's hope this generation comes back
These
home
ain't coming
too.
back home. They buy a new home.
I don't
They're
know.
going somewhere
I
else.
pray that they do. I pray that they do. I won't give up on them yet. And I say that even if all of them don't come back home, I'm sure we'll still have some fighting, because you know why? There are white supremacists out there from back in the days, the old 50, 60-year-old, 70, 80, 90-year-old white supremacists, and they're saying the same thing. They're saying, I taught them to be racist, but somehow Jim Crow didn't slide over into their blood. So they're more conscious, and they vote for Obama. Remember when Obama was running, he had a lot of those white
people,
folks worried because they were like, I got the racist white ones like, wait, I got my daughters voting for Obama. She should go to hell,
Right.
But I think on both sides we have people who are leaving the cause, whether the white folks and their racism, black folks and their consciousness. But I do believe you have young people and middle-aged people who are still willing to fight the good fight. And you know what we need often, and it's unfortunate, but many times we need an issue. We need an issue that will get people out. When George Floyd was the last issue we had, young people came from everywhere. Older people came from that. They were on the streets. The good thing at that time is that the church, maybe it was good that the church wasn't open, because we would have been in the church talking about how we could rally, how we could do this, how we could do that. But without the church and closed doors for community centers and everything else, everybody just hit the streets. They got on Facebook and social media, just hit the streets. We would have been still talking about how we can make this happen. And sometimes you just need an incident, a cause, in order to get out there and gather people together, organize, and target.
Our current situation should be that.
It should be.
One last thing I want to say to Osiris: we're not so. What we're talking about is not the entertainers being on the front line, but those entertainers supported those that were on the front line, and these entertainers are not. And that's the difference. We're not looking for. Nobody was looking for those entertainers to do the work. There was a couple of exceptional people like Sidney Poitier and them who did the work, but there was more on the outside that were behind the scenes that funded things. You know what I'm saying? These young cats are not even trying to put their money up to pull it together for any movement or thing. So that's the difference. So they weren't looking for the entertainers to do the work. We're not looking for the entertainers to do the work either.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? But funded. Like, everybody's not going. I say this all the time. Everybody can't be on the front line. Real talk.
Right.
Everybody ain't built like that.
Shouldn't be. So everybody shouldn't be on the front line.
But you got to do. But you got to support the people that are out on the front line.
Right.
And there's some things you can do. Some people got like behind the scenes organizational skills. One of our biggest movements, most of our movements fail for a lack of organization. Dr. Bob always says that on this show. You know what I'm saying? That's one of our biggest problems, lack of organization.
Right.
So, some people can do, you cook, you can be the one feeding the people.
That's important.
There's a lot of people, and those who have the money to write the checks or hand over a bag to keep the movement going. One thing, that's what kept Black Westchester going, because these Negroes ain't think we worthy for advertising. It was some people behind the scenes whose names you're never gonna know, who was like, yo, here's a couple hundred here. I want to see y'all going. Here's they didn't even have nothing to take an ad out for, but they wanted to give some money. Here's a little donation to keep y'all going. That's what kept us going the little bit that we've been doing for the last 10 years. But we need more of that in our movements. And that's the point I was trying to make, Osiris, not that they need to be on the front line. So enough of that, but I wanted to address that point, finish addressing that point.
I think
the problem with these entertainers is they are afraid of their brand if they're not politically active. If they're politically active, but they showed that, see the difference, Carlton, though? In 1987, I had to sign to a record company and get major worldwide distribution. They don't have to do that now. A lot of these people, there's cats out here in Westchester. Jadakiss has a son. Grand Pooba has a son. They're making music and they're selling it without labels. You understand what I'm saying? That gives them more control over their ownership, their publishing, their masters. It's harder to shut somebody down when you didn't give their power. When Public Enemy, when Professor Griff got a little too vocal about Jewish people, they had a meeting. Yo, you gotta get that guy out, and you gotta kick that dude out. And if not, there wouldn't have been no more Public Enemy. You understand what I'm saying? But when you have these young people have a different kind of power that they don't understand, the machine doesn't control them. The machine didn't give them their power. The machine is not responsible for their distribution, and they're making money outside of the machine. You understand what I'm saying? So being, everybody's not going to speak on the issue, but also, and to the people, when someone makes those records that speak up on the issue, we don't support them. So you can't blame all the artists. Right. There are artists who are making music like that. You know what I'm saying? I can name a bunch of them, joints that, but those records are not on radio. Those records, and everybody didn't run to go buy them either through streaming services or other records. We have to support those who are doing the work. And again, that's what we got to do. So some people are not going to be on the front line, but they can support those who are on the front line. And that's our issue. And just like back in the days, that Just Say No campaign, the reason that Just Say No campaign failed, they never told kids what to say yes to. So if you keep telling all these kids, oh, this one is bad and this one is bad, and don't listen to this music, show them some of the artists that are good then. You understand? I always said that. Show them the new Talib Kweli record. Show them the J. Cole record. Show them the artists that are actually doing that. But you can't say don't do this or just say no if you don't tell somebody what to say yes to. That's another issue with and that has a lot to do with how the artists who are in this to make money. And I'm speaking from an artist perspective because I'm always the artist first. You know what I'm saying? It kind of dictates how you move a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. No, I totally understand, and it's good.
But I want to get back to the topic at hand, and I do want to say two things. I started off this way. Two things can be possible at the same time. What Hamas did on October 7th was atrocious. We've condemned that. There's no excuse for that ever. And the innocent people that were killed in Israel, that was unacceptable. The innocent people being killed on the other side is also acceptable. That doesn't make me pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic to state that. That makes me human, that I can be empathetic for the innocent lives on both sides that are getting killed.
That's my
And see, that's where we draw these battle lines and we listening to all the rhetoric that is being spat out by these politicians, that they're being fed these talking points from these organizations like AIPAC. You understand what I'm saying? And people are hearing it and they're repeating it. But both things can be true at the same time. We're in a world where only one thing can be true. Now, two things can't be true. That's the world we live in now. You either get with this or you get with that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So what's going on to the Palestinians is atrocious. And don't take our word for it. What was that court, that international court?
International Court of Justice.
They called it genocide. They said what's going on in Palestine is genocide.
South Africa.
That's not even the word. That's not even the word that Damon came up with. And Damon said, if George is going to let these people support them, then he's genocide George. And that's what made George Latimer flip his wig.
And if you do not speak out on it, you're still genocide George. And I'm sorry, because this is not about Jamal. This is about humanity. This is about humanity. So speak out against it. Speak for a two-state solution.
But you see, that's the problem. That's also the problem when, and we just said this about Israel. When you taking money, you could put some strings attached. You could give them talking points, etc. whatever elected official takes money from somebody, there's certain things that those people are giving them money for
I
to
keep
say,
saying no one is
you know?
giving you money for free.
And exactly.
And the most important thing is the people who give the most money, when the phone rings, their calls get answered first.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to understand, what power is as black people,
Mm-hmm.
and put together black PACs. They have all these other PACs. We don't have any black PAC in Westchester that can be like, okay, we need to keep this brother Jamal in. Let's support that. Or this sister that's running to be the first in CD 17, Marianne Carr. You know what? I like her. I like her principles. Let's put our money behind that. We don't have that power. So all our elected officials and candidates have to depend on money from anywhere they can get it. And not all money is good money. Damon will tell you, Damon has tore up a whole bunch of people's checks in their face because they try to buy us. They try to buy our silence. And I'm telling you, for someone who this is what I do for a living, and this is all I do, we could have used some of them 5 and 6 figure checks, but nobody brought us. Like, everybody throws around unbought and unbossed, but you don't understand. Freedom is not free.
That's
You
right.
understand what I'm saying? We do have the freedom to move how we want, but freedom is not free.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? There's things.
Julian Bond used to say that all the time. Freedom is not free.
There's a cost you have to pay. And other politicians out here saying unbought and unbossed, that is BS, because you are bought because you've taken money from a lot of people. And they want things for that. If we want things, that's how we have to learn. We have to, what Damon says, buy our politicians, because everybody else is buying them. And everybody else's work is being done but ours. You know what I'm saying? So until we get into that place where we can support, we're never going to have that. We're always going to be behind the 8 ball complaining after they get elected, talking about, what are you going to do for me? The time to ask, what are you going to do for me, is beforehand.
That's right.
And if you want my money and my vote, these are the things we need you to do. And we got X amount of money to put. We got X amount of money to put the exclamation mark on that. And then they're going to be like, oh yeah. They're going to see the dollar signs, and they're going to be like, and they're going to be talking what you need them to talk. Because we look at what's happening right now. Look at what has always been happening. This is what we've been seeing. A white person told me, he said, yo, y'all get money, you buy Cadillacs and jewelry and stuff. We buy politicians. I first got offended when the person said that to me, to be honest.
But then you thought about it.
Then I thought about, because the person he got white supremacist tendencies, and he got racist tendencies, and all that. But when I had to listen to him, and when we had an actual conversation, and he explained what he meant, I couldn't disagree with him. And I felt kind of messed up that I couldn't disagree, because we do spend our money on jewelry and cars and stuff that depreciates and doesn't create generational wealth.
Right.
And
the old Kanye, being an artist, the old Kanye used to speak that way.
I'm gonna say this, and it's not gonna be popular, and it's probably gonna get me in trouble again. Everything Kanye said was not just crazy. There are some things that he said that we are actually seeing play out. Now, he went a little too low with hugging Trump and talking about Hitler, like, whatever. But we got to understand, though, we got to stop missing the message because of what we feel about the messenger. Even crazy people, broken clocks are right twice a day. So sometimes there's a moment of clarity that comes out, and that nugget you need to be able to get. You know what I'm saying? But we throw the baby away with the bathwater. So I'm just saying everything he said was not crazy.
Yeah, no. I was talking about his old lyrics when he said that, we buy cars and jewelry. And other folks buy, invest in bonds, stocks and bonds.
Right. But I'm saying even his public statements that he made, and I'm not going to repeat all of them, but you know what he said. And if you looked at since then, certain people have been disciplined and shut down because of what he said.
Right.
Exactly what he said.
There was a Jewish comedian. It was on TikTok or somewhere. And he was a Jewish comedian. He said, we're back discussing all this Semitism, and then Kanye comes out and he says that the Jews run the banks, the Jews run the entertainment industry, the Jews run everything, and then he lost everything. He said they proved him wrong, right? He was just
right. Yeah, they proved him
right. He was like, yeah, teach him. You proved him wrong, right? Because they shut him down. Everything he said that they could do, they did to him. And this is.
But the key thing they learned, and
right.
we need to learn this, is they were in their oppression. The answer to that question is yes. In that oppression, they realized what power was. They realized about putting their money together was. They realized and how changing the narrative with power and how to obtain that power and how to wield that power. They understood they're not treated the same way. You understand what I'm saying? They looked at it a different way. They have a certain power and they fought for that power. And I don't agree with everything they do and everything they say. I don't agree with nobody 100%. But in the beginning, fighting for that power so nothing can happen to them again, we need to learn about that. We need to learn to move in that way.
Well, because but it goes back to what I was saying from before. We do not teach our children community, and
or finance.
well, community, community and finance, because the whole thing is when you go out there to make money, it's your responsibility to give back to your community. We do not teach that, right? I mean, to be honest, what is Black culture in America, right? It's still something that the white man gave us, like we make it into something, like chitlins, right? Right? We ended up making chitlins because we got the leftover from the pig from master. So that's what Black culture is we continue to make leftovers from what the white man gives us. And we've been doing it for 400 years. And we yet to establish an actual Black culture for Black people that talks about commerce, that talks about family. We don't have that. That's our problem. And we don't see it because we always just want to be close to the white man and have approval. Look, it's nothing wrong, but we have to take care of ourselves.
They see it, and that's the
needs. No, let me explain something that real crazy, right? We don't even have a food track. We can't track our food from the farmer to a Black grocery store. Think about that. Every other ethnic community has that, but Black people. Something simple as food. Something simple of tracking our food from the Black farmer to a Black grocery store. And with all our Mercedes Benzes and with all our Louis Vuitton and red bottom shoes and everything, every material piece of something we have, we can't even track food. We are dependent. The white man disappear tomorrow, we won't have nothing because we don't own anything. We don't own anything. We don't own the cars we drive. We don't own the tires we don't have a tire company. Think about that. We can't even get we can't even get an oil change if the white man disappeared because we don't have no oil. We don't have a company that makes oil for cars. Spark plugs. We don't have a Black spark plug company. We couldn't even go to the bathroom because we don't have a Black-owned toilet company that makes toilets.
Or toilet paper.
Let alone wipe our Black behind. See, because we are not trapped. When I went to my daughter's graduation from college, the University of Miami, out of all the Black kids that were there, there was one Black kid that was an engineer. And I said, damn, we can't even build. You understand? So we have to do some real soul searching among ourselves as Black people, and really focus on these school districts and redo our school districts so we could build builders of communities.
Wait. Want to hear one of the things that's crazy? That's why Jamal Bowman is dangerous, because that's what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Rebuilding our school systems and the miseducation of the Black person. You understand what I'm saying? And the discrepancy of the public school systems and what we have to deal, and bringing resources to refix the entire infrastructure of our public school system. That's what he's talking about. That's dangerous. Do you know what I was going to say? So we don't know. You said these things we don't know, but you know everybody else knows that about us, but us.
Exactly.
And you know, in the public school system, the way it is, they're never going to give you the tools to defeat them.
Never.
They're never going to teach you to defeat them.
No.
They're never going to equip you with the knowledge you need to defeat them. So under the current situation, we're never going to get that information unless we take a hold of it ourselves. See, and here's another thing that is not popular. When there was segregation and we were fighting for integration, when there was segregation, we had to stay in Black neighborhoods. We had to go to Black doctors. We had to go to Black dentists. We had to go to the Black lawyer, because nobody else would. We could only go to the Black restaurant because we couldn't sit at the counter of the white restaurant. Do you know what? We were keeping our money in our community, recycling our Black dollar over and over and over, empowering it. And brother Hafiz Muhammad, rest his soul, was on our show when we was in the studio in Yonkers, and he said, you know, the quickest way to get a Black person's money, tell them you don't want it. And they'll be like, no, my money is as good as everybody else's. And they'll throw it at you. And now we don't, now that we can shop at the white store and we can eat in the white restaurant and we can go to the white food stand and we can go to food grocery store and we can go to the white dentist and the white doctor, we don't support ours.
Right.
We don't recycle our dollar. Our dollar is the only dollar that doesn't get recycled in the community 3 or 4 times.
Right. Yeah. But what can we do? I'd always like to come to the after we discuss everything and we know where the problem is.
Educate our people, one. Get people in office who actually believe what we believe and will fight for these things in leadership positions. But that takes power, again, getting our elected officials in.
Right.
And to education is the biggest thing. Like having these conversations, we have to educate. You know, again, I said, whose fault? I had an article, they said the youth is out of control. You know, there was a lot of people, and I credit a lot of people that were older than me that used to get at me when I was a knucklehead in 4th Street Playground and A5 Playground and all this stuff and not going to school and stuff. There was people that saw something in me that I'm still here and I'm not dead in jail and did double-digit jail sentences like some of my peers that I went to school with. If the youth is out of control, did you fail us or did we fail the youth? By not, you understand what I'm saying? Like, are we still getting at them young people like they used to get at us? Like, I'm only here because of a bunch of old heads that saw something that fought for me.
Right.
And if not, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you.
Right.
I wouldn't be here running a Black community newspaper. I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing, documenting Black culture and Black history in Westchester County. I wouldn't be here without a lot of people who actually saw that I was like, yo, dude, you don't need to be this, and you this, that, and encouraged me to do better. And I still was the prodigal son. I had to run off and say F them and run out. But you know what? I remember everything they said to me, even if I said I wasn't listening. And I live by a lot of those principles now.
Right.
So
and most of us, I think, if you're a Black man, you got some kind of story like that. You know, I grew up in the South Bronx.
But these young kids don't have these kind of stories. So is the kids failing us, or the kids can't teach themselves how to be men? They can't teach themselves responsibility.
Yeah,
that has to be taught to them by us. So are we failing them, or are they failing us?
This is where we need to open up more community centers where they can come. where they can feel free to express themselves. You know, I don't think there's a forum for us to connect with them. I mean, if you say educate, you surely don't mean the educational institution that they go to every day.
Cynthia Turnquest Jones, who used to be the first co-host of this show, she said the most stuff that she knows about Black history and the knowledge that she get did not come from the public school system. It came from Victor Turnquest, her father, in the house.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So no,
That's
just education doesn't mean. And we come from a culture in Africa where the griots used to sit there and explain to the young people in the village the history and all that stuff. We don't have that. We don't have our older storytellers. We're not doing that no more. We're not passing the knowledge down. So when older people die, they die off with all that knowledge, leaving another generation to try to figure it out.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm sure Damon got other answers, but that's
no. I just
that's a pet peeve.
Yeah. We're coming up. We're coming up on the time, brother. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on. For the record, AJ sent the flyer, and we asked other pastors to come on tonight.
I got a couple of responses. Darren Morton did text me while we were on the air. He's fighting off a cold, and he preached twice today. But he said, "I have no problem. I have no doubt that Ed will hold it down." And Pastor Poe did respond to me that he already had something else that he had to do that he couldn't be there. Those are the only two I heard from. Others gave me like thumbs up in the post. And stuff. You know what I'm saying? But those two pastors I did hear from who said that they would be here. But I want to ask Pastor Mulrain.
You go, dude. You make it happen.
I want to ask you to answer the question that you asked. How do we fix this? Where do we go from here?
I think, well, education is always good. But, you know, I've been more lately into end of Martin Luther King's life, the Poor People's Campaign. And I know when he started messing with folks' money, that's when he died. I think we ought to try our best to start talking about
redistribute the pain, as he said.
Right. That way we need to start talking about more economics. And when I say economics and financial stuff, I'm having at the church, Women in Finances this year. I'm doing more on finances because I do think we need to not only build money, we need to build wealth in our communities. And we need to do that, yes, by ownership. We need to do that by housing ownership, business ownership, but also get involved with this market and learn how to use our life insurance in order to send our children to school. There's so much that we are lacking in this area. The good thing about it, and although we may shun a lot of this generation, they are coming into the financial responsibility and financial gain that many of us lacked. And I think that's causing a conflict between the consciousness of them and the economics of them, because they see so much money that they forget about the empowerment of the people. And they're coming across this money and somehow not really using it in order to support the community. They're just going worldwide or using it frivolously. But my whole goal is to try to get us more educated and involved with owning our own businesses, more involved in owning homes, not only a house, own more homes in a house, so that we can reinvest and start doing more with our community. You see all of these buildings in Mount Vernon, houses that need to be renovated. We could take those over. We could start a fund of some kind and take care of that. You know, one of my first jobs was I worked with Reverend Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood, but I worked for the city at the time. I was a city planner. And my job was in East New York, Brooklyn. And you know, this is back in the 90s. So East New York, Brooklyn was tough. Even when you went to the community meeting, my job was to build housing in that community and get the housing. We had to take housing out of there in terms of ripping down some of the dilapidated buildings and stuff like that, acquire and then rebuild. And I thought it was the greatest thing that we could do. But those people, they did not want to see change immediately. They did not want to see you come into their broken down community and tear it apart. They had value in it. And some of them had these homes for years because they cherished it. It was traumatic for them. But at the end of the day, we had to build a whole new community so that people can know what they're worth, because you're known only not by what you wear, but what you're worth in terms of your home and your car and everything else. And so it was good to know that, building communities was my thing. And I think that we can do that here. We can start organizations. That was the Nehemiah project that I worked on. But we can start organizations right here. The people who are suffering. It's hard to pay rent these days. The rent you're paying, you're basically you're paying a mortgage.
Exactly.
And we need to make sure that our people get into homes rather than just into rentals, so that we can have some value. We can have some wealth building. Something that was worth $300,000 5 years ago is worth like $100,000 or $100,000 plus on top of that. The $300 that's gone to like $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. That's $400,000 in your pocket if you were to sell that property. So I think we need more on that area, in that area.
No, you're absolutely right, brother. When we moved, we've been living up here for almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
When the apartment that we was living in Mount Vernon, that we was renting, the rent for that apartment now is same as our mortgage.
We see that,
and we bought this brand new. So we really have to discuss finances.
Yeah.
We really have to discuss finances. We really have to teach people how to pool their resources.
That's right.
And how, but see that everything that we're talking about, that's just not in community life, right? That's in political life, right? Because that's all what AIPAC is doing. Their community is pooling their money, right?
Right.
That's
all they're doing, right?
Give a power to spend it on their interests. Black people, we have to stop, and I'm gonna say this: we have to stop looking for allies and start putting people that fight for our interests. There's a difference. Right? An ally will give you rhetoric that they're on your side. That's what they do. They give you rhetoric. I'm all for the community. I'm this and that. And then they'll be in their 30 years and your community don't change.
That's right.
That's an ally. We have to have people that's in there for our interests. So when they go to Washington, D.C., or they go up to Albany, right? It's all about bringing back the bacon and bringing back money that can build a community. And that's what we, and I'm not talking about little handouts, right? I'm not talking about hooking up, their third, fourth cousin or somebody that worked with them and using them as a patsy and no, I'm talking about real investment in the community for our young Black men and women, so they could be the best that they could be, and they could be the best of our community. See, if we're not going to do that, then we're just wasting time, and we're giving our young people nothing. What happens? What happens when a young kid goes to White Plains from Mount Vernon and he walks down Mamaroneck Avenue? Right now, I've seen it from grown adults. They'll be in Mount Vernon, they'll throw the trash right out in the street. They get to White Plains, they walk into the trash can. You understand?
Right.
So they. Do you understand what I'm saying? You understand the mentality? So we have to say, listen, man, we got to change. We have to change ourselves. We can't blame the kids all the time. Right. The kids,
kids, they throwing garbage out the car as they driving by right in front of my house. You know, they take big McDonald's bags out the window. You go and keep on driving.
Right,
like
because they've lost respect because we haven't respected as adults. We can't blame kids, right? Kids don't vote. A lot of them don't have no jobs. They depend on their parent, and their parent teaches them how to respect their community. So we have to retrain our mindset in order for the kids to respect what we do. But we have to produce them a clean, livable city with standards.
That's right.
Right? You know, how do you expect a kid to say when I see grown ass men damn near 50 years old, older or my age and older, rolling dice out in the street. Rolling dice in the street.
Right. Yeah.
So what come on, man. Like we have to be responsible for ourselves and our community. Dr. Claude Anderson said one thing we don't have is standards. See, I can't go out here. I have an HOA. I just can't go out here and put a sign on my yard. HOA would send me a letter saying, get that sign up or we're fining you.
That's right.
Because that's community standards. What standards do Black people have for their community? Like, because if you go and you say, hey, sis, your kid was just fighting down the street. Don't you tell me what my son doing. No, are you kidding me? Right? This is what we do to ourselves. So we have to change our mindset. Black folks got to change their mindset in order for us to win this fight, because right now we're losing. We are losing, and we can't say we don't have no money because every other ethnic group got businesses in the Black community but Black people. So clearly there's some money in there. We just not spending with ourselves.
Talk about moving forward a little bit. Some of the things you can do. You're having a debate coming up for the district attorney. Talk about that real quick. When is that? Where is that?
On the 7th at Mount Vernon Public Library, we having a DA's debate, and so it's only going to be it's 3 candidates running, but only two confirmed. And that was Wagstaff and Ms. Oh, Jesus, I messed his name up.
The other candidate. I never remember his name either.
Yeah, sorry, my brother, if you're watching.
Right? It might be for the best.
So people must understand we did send an invite to Concase. But whoever was working for her, and this is why you need to have, when you run a campaign, you need to have people from the community to understand who they talking to. So they said they wasn't going to make a decision on whether Concase was going to come to any debate. Like they will choose which debate that they will come to. And made it clear that we should take her name and likenesses off our flyer. So we did. And we're not putting it back on. Now, she's welcome to come. She's welcome to come, but we're not sending another invitation out. Because we are the people. We are the ones that vote. And the tone in this young man's email was very disrespectful. And none of it. There's 11 organizations on the fly, all Black. You should know who you're talking to before you send the email. And I say it. She's welcome to come, and she's welcome to participate.
You know, the important thing about that too, and I wanted you to bring about that. We talk about criminal justice reform and all this other stuff. The best thing you can do, one of the local things you can do, the most powerful thing you can do locally for criminal justice reform is get involved in your district attorney race.
Absolutely.
And Know who the candidates
Absolutely.
are, and if they represent if they represent you, and if they represent what you the way
Yeah.
you want your criminal justice to be.
Right.
Getting involved, coming to debates, and hearing who these candidates are, remembering those who do show up and don't show up, those who answer the questions, then going to their websites and checking them out to see what they left out maybe and what they about,
Mm-hmm.
so you can make informed decisions at the ballot box. We can talk about criminal justice reform all we want, but we get people like Scarpino in there that ain't got our image, that ain't got our interest. And I'm sorry, I was totally. I didn't vote for him the first time. I voted for the Republican that ran against him, Bruce Bendix, before the Trump era. You know what I'm saying? And he totally did nothing, especially from being from the city of Mount Vernon. He did nothing for our community, for police corruption and governmental corruptions.
You know, AJ, I just want to say something. Brother, you was talking about finances, right? And understanding stocks and bonds and
Yes.
and what do we do with that, right? We're taught in finance, right? We're taught in finance to diversify our funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
We put some over here and put some over there and make sure we diversify, because sometimes we don't want all our money in one account, because if the stocks drop, right, we're going to lose money, right? So we got some over here. Black people better start learning to diversify their political parties moving forward. Let's not get so scared of Republicans being racist, because we're witnessing the most racist Democrats. We're witnessing it right before our eyes on what they're doing to black people in the Westchester County Democratic Party today. They're literally suppressing the vote with Republicans. So we need to start diversifying our interests, so both parties will look to the black vote to win.
And that's what AIPAC did, according to MSNBC.
Exactly.
They took all the congressional leaders and they put money into all leaders on both sides.
Because that's what they're doing. Let's not get caught up with Trump. Trump is a distraction. He's a distraction. Let's not get caught up with one party is racist, one party is not, because they both are. They both are. The only reason why the Republicans is a little more racist, because we don't have the proper numbers in their party to check them. See, if we diversify, we'll control both. Just like AIPAC does. See, one thing Elijah Muhammad said this. He said, study the white man because he is successful. He makes no excuses for his failures. This is a time for us to study how they are using this political party to control their interests and move billions of our taxpayer dollars to a foreign government. We have to pay attention now, brother.
It's true.
Because if we're not, you see what they're doing with the immigrants? They're gonna be the new niggas. They're gonna push us away. They getting ready to divorce us. They are. They're giving them free housing. They're giving them credit cards. They're getting ready to divorce black people. We've been crying about housing and finance and all this other stuff for centuries. These people coming over, they're giving them all that.
And black people moved down a notch a little bit. Used to be white, black, and other. Now it's white, Latino, black.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're not even the next minority. Like, we're not the top. You know what I'm saying? We're down, and we're gonna go down another notch in a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Man, we better get it together.
That's right.
You got those black folks in Chicago going off. They even want to give these migrants, they let them be police officers. That goes against the Constitution. Well, Carlton. I know a few black Republicans that are about it.
I do too.
But
Tim Scott is definitely not a representation of that.
Absolutely not.
But they don't get the public awareness as the Uncle Tom black ones. But I do know that there are some about it. They really about it.
It's only a handful, though. But yeah,
but there's only a handful. But that should not stop us, right? That's to infiltrate it, because see, we're being infiltrated right now. 2,300.
Wait, and they told you what they were going to do.
Exactly.
They put it on business cards.
Exactly.
They opened up an office in New Rochelle to make the switch for you. They
exactly.
put it on websites. They told you what they were going to do, and then they did it. They told people when to do it by. Valentine's Day. They was like, "Happy Valentine's Day. We're gonna divorce Bowman." Like, I mean, they put it out there that the goal was to get rid of this black man. They put it in writing all over the place. They didn't hide it. They didn't worry about being politically correct. They didn't worry about anything that black people were going to say or do, and then they did it.
Right. Exactly. And brother, you need to go back to your brother pastors and say, if they take this black man out, they ain't gonna respect no black man.
We need to keep that seat in our community. That has to be something that we listen. Like I said, I fought for that seat for years. There was no doubt about it. What we tried to do for many, many years, and it's unfortunate that where we are now. But that's where our fight comes in. I mean, this is just done to give us a good fight and get people involved, and hopefully they will respond. So, like I said, you need some controversy in order to get people out.
And they didn't want you. You was too vocal. They didn't want you to win that state senate seat.
Oh gosh! Actually, Crump just asked me the question. Our sister Crump, and she said, "Are you gonna run for office again?" I'm praying on it, but what I don't want to do now, I don't want to run against another black person. If I were to run, I'm not gonna say because then people start lining up against
right.
it. But I think that we should be striving for higher offices.
Absolutely.
When we haven't been, we need to go into places where we feel like we can make a difference. It's easy for us to run against each other. That's what they like and that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
When I ran, it was a person vacating the seat. So we were running for a seat, not against each other.
Right.
But when you start seeing places we have not been in the United States Senate. Georgia just elected my boy, and that's in the South, United States Senate, Warnock. But we up here in New York, supposed to be a Democratic, left-leaning, liberal type state, and we still can't get a black person in the U.S. Senate. In the governor's office, we had one, but that was by default.
And they showed they can take them seats away from us too, as they did.
Exactly.
Whatever they overturned 6 seats in this last election.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional Democratic seats.
That's right. So
one of them was the biggest liar. They had to kick him out. Santos. He overturned one of those seats.
Yeah, he was crazy. For him to even get in there was a joke. So that's what
I'm saying. So they showed they can take it from you. They can take it when they want to. When they want to control something, they can control it. And their game is by any means necessary. Not what's right and what's wrong. Not what the rules say. We just gonna do it and we're gonna change the rules later. Like you know what I'm saying? Like and as long as we gotta know our enemy. We have to know those who are coming against us, and we have to meet them. Like we can't. All this ideology about they wouldn't do this and that's not the way. They don't care about that when they're coming after us. So I know we went over the time, so I want to be respectful of your time. Any last words? Any last words for the people?
Yes, sir, brother.
I would just say for you all, I mean, I know it's hard out there. I know you got a lot on your shoulders, but you know, if God has given you this opportunity and this forum, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, we not everybody's going to agree with it, but this is a forum, and this is a forum that um, uh, if people understood it truly, they would appreciate you more. So I just thank you for this opportunity, knowing that I could just call you up and say, "Let's, brother, let's talk about this." You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I
Absolutely.
respect you highly. Yeah, if somebody like Fox News called one of these black folks, they'd be immediately on there, because they know that it's an opportunity. So I think that we
Exactly.
do that for our own community as well. So I just say thank you. I appreciate you and your audience. And we got to get out there and move from rhetoric to action. Make sure that we get out there and actually vote when the time comes. I was head of the New York State NAACP voting district I was vice president of the state, but nationally I was the voting director. But it was about getting out there and getting the vote out. I think we need to go back to the strategies in order to get our people out and make sure that they actually get out and vote. Because we could be for a candidate, but if we don't come out to vote, what good is it?
That's supposed to be the mandate now, but we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
I want to give you credit and give you props. There's a lot of people who don't necessarily agree with us, but they will not do what you did and call us and be like, brother, let me come on the show. Let's have this conversation.
Right.
Right.
They
Right.
won't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, yo,
Yeah.
we're not going
And
to
they'll
always.
hear y'all talking and be mad at y'all forever. And I'm saying we brothers. You know what I'm saying? Even if we disagree, we still
Right.
brothers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the
Yeah, 'cause
day,
you and I have not seen eye to eye.
We got to have each other's back. You know what I'm saying? White
Right, you and I
supremacists
have
come down
not.
the street. We got to have each other's back.
Right, you and I have not seen eye to eye on everything, but you
That's
still
right.
you picked up that phone
That's
and said,
right.
"Yo,
But
AJ."
I still respect your opinion. I still respect you as a man. I still respect the show and what y'all are doing. So, it's
Appreciate
sometimes
that.
not about agree. It's about coming together and having our conversation.
Lastly, I want to say to everybody listening, everybody who's listening now, everybody who will watch this either on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the like button and share this. But what we need to do is when you see a conversation like this, you need to share this conversation in your circles. You need to take this conversation and continue it on into your circles. You understand what I'm saying? That's how we get the word out. If you like anything that you heard here, spread the word. I'm not just be like, oh, yeah, y'all did a great job and just keep it moving. No, share it with your circle. Take this conversation back to your circle, and we can continue having this on a broader, this conversation on a broader level. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time. Damon, any last words?
No, that's it, man. People, please, please, please pay attention to what's going on, man. Please pay attention. We have an opportunity this election year to really put Black people in places of power. We have an opportunity to reelect the first Black congressman of District 16. We have the opportunity to elect the first Black Westchester County DA, and we have an opportunity to elect, whether you go for Mondia Jones or whether you go for Marianne Carr, we have the opportunity to elect the first Black woman in CD 17 or reelect the first Black man in CD 17. And it's all on us, right? Are we going to be like, are we going to learn and say community before party? Or are we going to put party before community that is showing us that they don't have our interests at this point right now? So that's all I have to say, man. We have to take in charge of our lives. We look for people that's going to fight for our interests instead of allies. Allies haven't got Black folks nowhere. It's about putting people here for our interests. So thank you for watching, and
Thank you, Charles Stern. Charles Stern said thoughtful show. Carlton said thanks AJ and Damon and Black Westchester for this forum. A few other people thanked us. Yo, we run and go tell everything else that's going on. Run, go tell this. Share this. You know what I'm saying? Share this. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and you like this forum. Shout out to Osiris. And with Damon, take us out with that MSNBC clip, and we out of here.
Oh, hold on a second, man. I just.
All right, God bless you. I got to run.
Peace, my brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate y'all.
You know what, brother? I'm going to put back up this.
A democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East, in the exact same way that America is the oldest democracy in the world. I can remember walking down streets with a Palestinian guide. And we would get to certain streets and he would say, I can't walk down this street with you. You can walk, I cannot, because I'm Palestinian. And I thought, I know what that is. As we drove through the occupied territories and I would look out and I would see roads that Palestinians could use and roads that only Israeli Jews could use. I said, I know what this is. As I saw different colored license plates for different classes of people, I said, I know what this is. As I saw communities that I can only describe as segregated. And what I felt was a tremendous weight. I felt the obvious thing that I think all of us feel, that our tax dollars are effectively subsidizing apartheid, or subsidizing a segregationist order, a Jim Crow regime. But I also felt that as an African American who was reared on the fight against Jim Crow, against white supremacy, against apartheid, I felt tremendous shame. How could I not know? How could I not know that the only democracy in the Middle East as it builds itself is segregated?
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it.